My name is John Calvert. I appreciate you guys being here today. A little bit about me. I graduated from Washburn University in 2006 with a major in criminal justice. I'm double minored in psychology and sociology. I immediately went to work in Leawood, Kansas as a police officer. Graduated from the Regional Police Academy there in Johnson County in 2006. Immediately started working for Leawood. Worked my way back towards Shawnee County, Topeka area. Worked in Shawnee County Jail for 4.5 years. Then moved north into Jackson County, and I finished my law enforcement career as the school resource officer in Jackson County, and I was in charge of 3 different school districts: Royal Valley, Holton, and Jackson Heights. There were 3 districts, 8 buildings, and this guy. So I joke all the time that I actually started, if you could see in that first picture, I actually had a lot more hair when I first started. Now I'm part-time Jackson County deputy, and I actually am the school safety specialist for the Kansas State Department of Education. So instead of being in charge of 3 districts, I'm now in charge of 286. This is my family. My mug here says police on it. The reason it doesn't say #1 dad is because that's the kind of dad I am. I just dangle my kids with one hand. My daughter is going to be 8 years old next week, and my son will be 5 next month. My wife is an elementary school principal, and so basically I couldn't get away from the schools. And what I really found out when we started looking at safety in the school districts, it mimicked exactly what we were kind of going through at the church. We wanted to, when the schools were first built, we wanted to welcome the community. We wanted to have open doors. We wanted everybody to come in and see what we were doing. Just like churches, we want to welcome everybody. We want to see what everybody's doing, and we want them to feel comfortable because, by gosh dang, we want to bring Christ to them, like absolutely. And then the big Columbine, almost 20 years ago, it'll be 20 years ago on the 20th, so a week from today, that really kind of started shaping what our schools were doing safety-wise. Now you can't get into a school without pressing a button and getting on camera, and it's all very hardened facilities. The problem with that is that we looked at schools, and schools don't have a lot of money. They're using their money to teach our kids, not necessarily to go out and do all this fancy equipment. So schools were going out and getting grants, they were getting safety grants, they were passing bond issues, and now a lot of our schools have this hardened facility, and we're seeing, especially in the safety realm, that our active assailants are seeing this. So they are moving from schools and going to other places, and unfortunately churches are one of them. What I like to try and say right up front, though, is I know I'm going to be talking a lot about active assailants. I'm going to be talking about crisis stuff. What I don't like to have happen is for you to leave here and think, oh my gosh, we're all going to die. The sky is falling. There's nothing we can do. I better spend more time in prayer because, gosh dang, I want God to know my voice the second I get up there, right? The FBI put out a report last year. And it basically stated that we as a society are 1 in 1.4 million times likely to be involved in some sort of active assailant event anywhere. Okay, so if we try and narrow that down to just churches, if we try to narrow that down to just schools, the number is astronomical. Okay, so this doesn't happen every day. This doesn't happen all the time. But when it does happen, it gets a whole lot of news media, which really kind of scares us. Okay. I want you to know that as the school safety specialist, the #1 question that I get all the time is, how do we keep our schools safe? How do we keep churches safe? I'm here to tell you that our churches are safe. Our schools are safe, okay? We're already doing a lot, and it's the minute fraction of what happens that gets blown up in the media, and so we automatically think we're all in trouble. But what I try to do is I don't try and sit here and come into churches, just like I don't go into schools and say, you need to spend $2 million. Like, you need to harden the facility, you need cameras, you need guns, you need bombs, this is what you need, right? I just look at it as very simple fixes, something that we may have to spend $100 on or $50 on. I call them nickel fixes. If we can do something to harden the facility just a little bit or put out there that, hey, we're taking steps in this direction, then the word of mouth is worth more than dollars in the wallet, okay? And I want you guys to spend your money on furthering the mission of Christ, to getting the word of Christ out there to others who don't have it. I don't want you to spend the millions of dollars so that our churches are hardened and now are like prisons, okay? Before I get too much into the weeds, I want you to know that the opinions here are my own, And I think if you like what you hear, that's great. I have the microphone, so if you don't like it, you're going to listen to it anyway. But please take these opinions, take what I'm giving you, take it back to your safety teams. If you don't have a safety team in your church, then get one, okay? You have a lot of people in your church already that are safety minded. If you just put it out there, a lot of ways that you can serve. I love serving on my church safety team because it's behind the scenes, right? And I don't have to be the one standing up at the pulpit, you know, preaching every day. Right? It's a tough subject, and I understand that, but I'm going to try to kind of inject some humor, so it's okay to laugh, and if you don't laugh, then you're just going to sit there, and I'm cool with uncomfortable silence anyway. I'm going to try to make it as non-political as possible. In today's realm, you're either way left or you're way right. I'm going to try to stay right there in the middle, all right? And there are going to be tons of questions, and especially since we got started a little early, I'm going to try to leave as much time for questions as possible, but understand that if you ask me, like, what if this, my answer to you might be, what if a meteor comes and strikes the church right now, right? So there may not be a good answer, but I'm going to try and be as non-political and tell you guys exactly what I think we should be doing to keep our churches safe, all right? So I pay taxes, y'all pay taxes. It's one of two things that's like guaranteed in life, right? Death and taxes. And I used to say the Kansas Jayhawks winning the Big 12 championship. Can't say that anymore. It's a tough subject, John. It's a tough subject. But this is the Pentagon. If you've never seen kind of an aerial view of the Pentagon, that's exactly what this is. And our tax dollars built this building, right? If I want to be safe, if I think, oh my gosh, where's the safest place in this building, I'm thinking it's probably going to be smack dab in the middle or in this inside layer, right? It's going to be very difficult to get through everything to injure me, okay? And that's kind of the approach that I take when I talk to churches. So how do we keep safe? It's by layering things. So layer one in our parking lots. Right before church service, you got somebody who can either just be standing out in the parking lot, can be walking around in the parking lot, you know, especially when service starts. We put on this big sign and on our websites, and we put out there, hey, service starts at 9:30. So if I want to go and look through cars and see what's going on, I'm probably going to show up at like 9:45, right? Because everybody's going to be in there, especially that one person who always shows up at 9:32. And you're like, listen, if you set your clock forward a little bit, you'd be here on time. So 9:45, I might just start walking the parking lots just to see what's in cars, okay? Car break-ins are huge because they take about 7 seconds. Smash it. Look in, see what you want, smash the window, grab it, and get out. So you have somebody who can just walk around, help people back cars in, help people who are carrying things. You know, I love the single moms out there who like have one kid on this arm, carrying the baby in this arm, and they're like trying to juggle like what they're bringing to church on their foot. Just somebody, again, hey, how are you? Can I help you carry something in, right? Can I help you park your car? Hey, you know what? I don't know you. I'm John. How are you doing today? And this kind of goes, you know, I get questioned a lot, especially by pastors. Well, 50% of the people say they come to our church and they don't want to be talked to. Right, but the other 50% say if they go to your church and you don't talk to them, they're not coming back. Flip the coin, folks, right? So you don't have to be overbearing, but just say, hey, how are you doing today? Welcome to our church. Thank you so much for being here. What brings you to this church? What is it that we can do for you, right? Layer two, inside the building. Now, I know that when you walk into your church, you have metal detectors. Yes, everybody has metal detectors when we go into church. And we have somebody that if it sets off, you wand them, right? No? No. Okay. So, layer two. Listen, this is my favorite because as a law enforcement officer, there are two things I'm really, really good at. One is drinking coffee, and two is eating donuts, right? I had like 2 or 3 of them. I thought about bringing one in, but from the time I picked it up to the time I walked in here, I finished it. So I didn't get to bring one in here, right? But this is exactly what these people do. They stand against the wall, they hold the wall up, they drink coffee, they eat the donuts, and they just kind of walk and look around. You know, hey, and they can interact with people, right? Hey, how are you? How are you doing? Oh, I'm doing great, thanks so much. But they're constantly scanning. Somebody comes in from the parking lot, hey, this is John. That person goes right back out to the parking lot. Hey, how are you doing? Now all of a sudden this new person has met 2 of our church members. And again, we're just talking to them. I'm not going to sit here and say, are you here as an active assailant? Are you going to do bad things to our church? No, hey, how are you? a lot of times, and especially what we found in our schools, is that the person will walk away, they will end it, they will be done at the sign of first resistance. If they automatically get met in the parking lot and they think, okay, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, and all of a sudden they get met in, they get handed off inside the building, now all of a sudden it's like, well, okay, well, I'm out of here, or I've changed my mind, right? They're keeping a watchful eye, they're communicating with other people, right? And again, this is present before, during, and after. All right, so if you have multiple services, one of the things that we're working on in our church that was just brought to our attention is don't have the same person sitting out in the church and not getting to spend the family time and the quality time in the actual church service with their family. So they're present before, during, and after. If you have multiple services, rotate them out if you can. All right, so that's layer 2. Layer 3 is going to be inside the service, and this is where I try not to get political. All right, but I'm a big proponent of the phrase, a good guy with a gun stops a bad guy with a gun, all right? And whether you know it or not, there are people inside your church who carry a gun every day, whether you know it or not. So let's maybe utilize that, especially if they're on the safety team, right? Like if the sheriff goes to your church or the chief of police or you have a law enforcement officer of any kind who goes to your church, they're carrying a gun. Okay, I try not to harp on this, but it's the one good thing that came from 9/11. Okay, prior to 9/11, law enforcement officers, those no gun signs meant something to law enforcement officers. We couldn't carry where the no gun signs were. Now, those no gun signs mean nothing to law enforcement. We can carry wherever and whenever we want as long as it's not inside a federal building. And if it's inside a federal building, we go to the security guy, and that's our code. So if you were paying attention, I just gave you the code. Right? But your law enforcement officers in your church are carrying a gun anyway. So let's utilize them. Let's talk to them about, hey, is there a place that you can sit? Is there a place where you might be able to keep a watchful eye? If you have a sound guy who works the sound and stands in the back, because I've never seen a church with the sound guy in the front going, sorry guys, but if he's standing in the back and he's over there by the entrance into the church, that's a great place for somebody to be armed. Right? What I try to tell people is that if these people come into our church, and I say active assailants because it might not be an active shooter, right? It might be a guy with a knife. He could have a ball bat. He could have a bomb. He could have a lot of things. It's not just the shooters. But if this active assailant comes into the church, he's not necessarily there to sell us Girl Scout cookies, right? So sit in the aisles, spread out around the church. Nobody needs to know who they are. You don't need to march them up front during a service and say, this is the safety team, and let me tell you what, each one and every one of these guys are carrying a gun. Whoa, right? I say, be like a sky marshal. You're secret. Everybody knows who you are. They can say hi to you. You're talking to it, but they don't need to know that you're carrying a gun or that you're a member of the safety team or what you're prepared to do, okay? They are prepared for the chaos. Right? I actually went to a church a couple months ago, and I talked to him afterwards. I said, hey, in the middle of the service, they had scripted somebody coming up to the stage and talking stuff out. They were doing a vacation Bible school like script, right? And so it was really funny, and it was really awesome. But I, as a safety guy, I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I see somebody stand up and start making their way to the pastor, and I go, and I stand up, my wife's looking at me, goes, sit down. I go, wait a minute. And then I realized what was going on, and I went, okay, we're okay. So maybe you don't have stuff scripted in the middle of a service where they go up and rush the pastor, because unfortunately that's what's happening a lot of times. People are standing up and they're going and they're trying to rush the pastor. And they could be because they're angry and they want to yell at him, could be tackling, could be they want to hurt him, whatever it may be. So if that's something that you do, maybe you talk about it with the safety team. Maybe you talk about it with your other members. Maybe you have a point in time to do something. In our church, we actually talked about it after the fact. And I said, we can't be doing this. And so now we have kind of a standing order that if anybody tries to go, and my pastor name is Grant, but if anybody tries to go talk to Grant or walk up to Grant during a service, they're not supposed to be there, and we can kind of usher them out, right? It's their job on the inside of the service to take charge of the situation, right? There's going to be yelling, there's going to be chaos. They have to be the person who can rise above all the voices and start making change and start guiding people out and start telling people what to do, okay? So those are kind of the 3 layers. You have your parking lot, then you're inside of the church, and then actually inside the service. All right? And so what I love to do is I'll stand out there, and I'll be kind of that second layer, and then when services switch, I'll go be the inside layer, but I'll get to have church with my family, right? So I get to hear the Word of God. I get to be just awesome with everything that's going on. I get to spend it with my family, but I'm also there as a safety person, okay? One of the biggest things that we do now in our churches is that there's a lot of youth outreach, okay? Now, adults are adults, and adults are going to do adult things, okay? Unfortunately, with our kids, we kind of just go, okay, whatever. You know, I can't go into when I go into Chuck E. Cheese with my kids, and let me tell you, how many of us have like young kids? Any of you guys have young kids? How many of us love going to Chuck E. Cheese, right? Oh, it's awesome. But one of the coolest things that they do is when we walk in, they stamp my kids, and then they stamp me with the same number, and it's like this glow-in-the-dark whatever. And then when we go to leave, I don't care if we're the only ones in Chuck E. Cheese. They sit there and they go, let me see your wrists, and they check the numbers, right? Oh my gosh, check in, check out at Chuck E. Cheese. But how many of our churches do we just kind of go, all right, have fun, little Johnny. I'm new here, by the way. I'll be back later. And go and sit in service, and we come in, and the person just, here you go, here's your kids. Oh, that's my kid over there. Okay, then go with them. You know, the check-in, check-out system is huge. And I've actually seen people and heard people say, we're coming back to this church because they made us show a ticket to get our kid back. And I've seen it the opposite way where we're not coming back because anybody can just grab my kid, right? So I'm really kind of one of those people, like, I can hear the Word of God and I get to go to church. I got a ton of churches in Topeka I get to choose from. So if it's a toss-up between two churches and one of them is going to protect my kid and the other one isn't, I'm going to go to the one that's going to have a little bit of that extra safety, right? And I know as a safety guy, when I say the word safety, a lot of people hear inconvenience, right? I can't really think of anything where we say safety that's not necessarily an inconvenience, all right? So this is something that I put together. Again, I majored in criminal justice, not like film or acting, but this is a couple minute long film here real quick about what we can do and what our kids are already doing inside of our schools so we can roll it over into what we do in our churches if something bad were to happen. All right, so what are we going to do moving forward? What does all of this mean? All right, so I came up with this thing, and basically it was because I'm an Alice trained instructor, and in schools that's like a run, hide, fight, okay? And so I was teaching this run, hide, fight, and I didn't like it, but this is what the sheriff told me to do. And so I was teaching it and was telling the kids, if you can run, you run, then you hide. And so talked to the adults and the teachers, and then I went to the kids and I told them what to do, and then we practiced it. And if anybody has like 6th and 7th grade children, you understand this. I said, all right, we're going to practice hiding now. Ready? Go. And the sixth graders were hiding underneath desks. They were hiding underneath chairs. In true sixth grade form, a bunch of boys picked a corner of the room and they jumped on top of each other and they dogpiled and they hid underneath each other, right? I'm like, oh, this is not good. So I walk into the room and I said, now what do you do? Oh, well, now we fight because we can't run, we can't hide. I'm like, okay, then come at me, bro. After they peel off of each other and climb out from underneath everything, I'm like, well, this is like 30, 45 seconds. But this is what we're teaching our youth. This is what I'm telling. So I go home to my wife and I go, I can't do it anymore. Like, no way. My wife says, if you bring me a problem without a solution, you're doing nothing but whining. Thanks, wife, right? And I said, there's no way to get around this. I would have to come up with my own protocol. She goes, are you not smart enough? And in 2 months, 3 months, we'll be married for 10 years still, right? Like, so I came up with SPAR. I didn't like the words of run, hide, fight. When I think of fight, I played football. Anybody else in here play football? Yeah, football. A lot of times you're like, football, right? When you talk to kids, it's not football, it's football. So I played football. I was on the offensive line. Why? Because I liked pizza and I liked donuts and I hated working out. So I was the offensive line. And my coach never once told me, we're going to fight the line of scrimmage. Because when I think of a fight, I think I hit you, you hit me, right? We're going to push you back, you're going to push us, but we're going to fight. We don't fight, we attack, right? We're going to attack the line of scrimmage. And when I think of the words attack, because words matter, attack means I'm going to overwhelm you. I'm going to push you back. I'm going to impose my will upon you, and you will have zero chance, right? So sprint, we're going to sprint behind a locked door, okay? That is the safest place you could possibly be. In an active assailant event, I knock on wood, pretend this is wood, everyone. In an active assailant event, a locked door has never been breached, okay? They come, they try the door, it's locked. They are wanting a high body count. Unless they're actively going towards someone, they want a high body count. And a locked door is just going to upset them. And they're going to continue to move on, okay? So we're going to get behind a locked door. If we can't get behind a locked door, the door doesn't lock for whatever reason, or we're out on the playground and we hear this stuff going on, we're getting far, far, far away, okay? Or if we're on one side of the church and the guy goes to the other side of the church and we're hearing faint gunshots or we're hearing faint yelling from the other side and we think it's time to get out, it's time to get out, okay? The other thing I'll say is that we have to empower our teachers. We have to empower the adults in the room to be adults, okay? When I go and I drop my kids off at church and they're going to their Sunday schools, there's an adult in the room. So I would hope and I pray that the adult in the room, if the time came for it, would be an adult and be able to make decisions, okay? If there's a fire in the church, I would expect that the adult would know what to do and make that decision. Now, I know being law enforcement, no matter what decision this adult makes, there's going to be people who Monday morning quarterback, right? Hindsight is always 20/20. But we as the church, we tell them, listen, we're going to train you to do this kind of stuff and we will back you up, okay? We will have your back. You have to make a decision. And the time to make the decision is far, far, far before any of this ever happens, okay? So we're going to sprint. We're going to sprint one of two ways. We're going to sprint either into a room that can be locked, or we're going to sprint out of the building. We're going to sprint far, far, far away. Everybody has a cell phone on them, right? If you don't, you get to the nearest house and you get to call. I would rather find you in a field 1.5 miles away than in this hallway at this point, right? Does that make sense? If we can't sprint, or when we get behind this locked door, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to prepare. We are not going to hide. You notice on the video, no one was hiding, right? We pick what's called the hard corner, all right? The hard corner in this room would be right here or over there on the other side of that door. And we're going to pick the hard corner because we'll go over this here in a little bit too. It's called the OODA loop, and I wish I would have coined it. I wish I would have come up with it because I would have made a lot of money. But it's OODA loop. It's observe, orient, decide, and act. I don't care how many times you've been in a room. I don't care how many times you've done something. Our brains do this all the time, okay? Whether you're driving, whether you're sitting, whatever you're doing, your brain is constantly going through this OODA loop. And so we want to disrupt that. You saw in the video the boy, and if you guys have teenagers or deal with teenagers, you know this is true. There's gunshots in the hallway, and this kid just, right? Because I'm so oblivious to everything. So Your teacher, your adult in the room looks out in the hallway, make sure it's clear. If not, you're grabbing that kid, get in here, right? Shut the door, you lock it, you prepare. You saw in the video that kid had a chair, but if you notice, the first girl, the second person in line, had a tissue box. Because I don't care what it is that you have. The objective here is not necessarily to decapitate this person. It is to end whatever assailant, whatever activity he wants to do, okay? And whether that's to get him on the ground, to get the weapon away, whatever it is, the goal is not necessarily to kill him. It's to stop his actions. So we're going to toss things, right? We're going to throw things, and if you know kids, the second that their mouth or their feet move, their mouth moves. So we're going to create as much distraction as we can, okay? And that gets into the attack piece. We have to make sure that we tell people in a last-ditch effort, if it's the last possible thing that you can do, you are okay and you have permission to attack, okay? Law enforcement officer, I qualify twice a year on the range, and I believe, I take it from G.I. Joe, I believe that if you shoot something, you should hit something. If not, you should take up knitting, okay? So I qualify with 100%. I spent a lot of time, and it's funny, but I spent a lot of time at about the 3 to 5 yards on the range, and I honed my basic skills so that all the way back 25 yards, at Kansas law enforcement, we have to take 10 shots at 25 yards behind a barricade, 5 standing and then 5 kneeling, right? I worked on my little things up close so that back farther I can still shoot well. I qualify with 100%, okay? In a real world situation, studies have been done where qualifying with 100% means in a real world I will shoot at about a 60% rate. And I'm trained, I've mentally prepared myself, but I'm still only going to hit about 60% in a real world. That's like horrible, because that's 40% of my bullets that I have to go and account for somewhere. What we found is that the active assailants, if they come in and start shooting, they are hitting us at a 99% hit rate. That's bogus, right? They don't have the training I do. They don't have the real world experience that I do. They haven't gone mentally where I've had to go. How are they hitting us so close? Because we've taught ourselves that if we get in a corner and we close our eyes and we just sit there, the bad guy will go away. And I've thought about it for the last 2 years, how to say this in some nice, easy way. There's no better way to say this other than it's shooting fish in a barrel, right? If you're not moving, if you're not creating a distraction, if you're just sitting there, this person has free reign to come as close as they want, and that's why they hit us at 99%. Again, they're not coming in to sell us Girl Scout cookies, folks. They're coming in to do bad, bad things. The last one that nobody really likes to talk about is the reunification, okay? And reunification is kind of twofold. When you're going through trainings with your adults, I highly suggest you train with your adults prior to introducing this to the kids. But when you train with your adults, they need to have time to reunify, to come back together, ask questions of whoever's teaching it, ask questions of the head person to the safety team, so that when we push it out to the kids and the kids have questions, the kids have time to reunify with the adults. If they can't answer it, they push it higher, they push higher. If you need to email me, you need to call me. I have business cards up here. You guys can call me at any time. I just got an email 2 weeks ago from a church. They sent me a picture and said, what do we do with this? You know how much I charged them? $150. No, I charged them $0, right? It's not about making money. It's about keeping everybody safe. So have time to reunify. Not only that, but think about it. If you had to evacuate your church, where are you going? Okay? And in a fire, it's like, oh, we'll just go stand out across the street and everybody will be able to get in their cars and leave as the fire trucks are pulling in, right? Like, that's no big deal. But if we had to evacuate the building and truly evacuate the area, where are we going? Where's the best place that can hold all of us, right? What if it's 20 degrees and snowing? What if it's sleeting? What if it's raining? What if it's 115 degrees in July with no wind? Not that that ever happens in Kansas, right? Not in July. That happens like in May or March, and then the next day it snows, right? Welcome to third winter in Kansas, right? But where can we go? And we can have a couple different places. And we don't have to broadcast that to everybody. But if the time comes, what we should be able to do is we should be able to say, okay, we're going here. We're going to go across the street. Like, John and I live across the street from the church. I know that if push comes to shove and we got to go to places, We can open up our neighborhood. We can open up our houses. We got a grocery store that's a mile. If we had to march everybody a mile down to the grocery store, we can do that too. All right? So it's things to think about, to talk to people about, to get the okay from prior to the actual event. Why is throwing things, why is distraction, why is screaming and yelling, why is that important, right? And I like to tell people, you know, how many of us, and I don't have a uniform on, so I'm not a cop right now, right? How many of us have ever gotten in our car at the end of church or after a long day at work and we take the same route home every day, and so we get in our car, 10, 15, 20 minutes later we pull up into our driveway and we go, how in the world did I get here? Has anybody else done that? I do that probably daily, right? Same route, same things going on. You get in your car, you're going, and all of a sudden up comes a deer from the ditch. What do? We sit up, our hands go 10 and 3, 10 and 2, 9 and 3, right? If there's kids, we're telling the kids to be quiet, right? And we're focused on this deer and our heart rate starts going. What changed? This deer came up and kind of started getting into our, what is this deer going to do? Now I have other things that we got to do, right? Or if you've ever been driving in downtown St. Louis, downtown Kansas City, where it starts getting real busy, first thing we do, we tell the kids to be quiet. We turn the radio down, right? That's ears. That has nothing to do with eyes. It has nothing to do with driving. But it's one more thing that kind of gets in our heads. And this is a great video. If you've never seen it before, it's a great video. Even if you have seen it before, don't tell everybody the ending. But it really does a great job at just kind of proving why we need to do something other than just sit.
The monkey business illusion. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the ball.
How many we get? 16. Anybody get anything different? Anybody brave enough to say I got something different?
The monkey.
The correct answer is 16 passes.
Boom.
Did you spot
How many of you guys saw the gorilla? Anybody say, no way, there's no gorilla? I actually had one time when I was doing this, somebody came up to me afterwards and said, you superimposed the gorilla. I know there was no gorilla. And I'm like, here's the site, go to it, it's on YouTube, right?
For people who haven't seen or heard about a video like this before, about half missed the gorilla. If you knew about the gorilla, you probably saw it. But did you notice the curtain changing color or the player on the black team leaving the game? Here comes the gorilla, and there goes a player, and the curtain is changing from red to gold.
What about the chick in black wearing white socks? I didn't even see that. I had somebody point that out to me and said, well, I was counting her passes because she was wearing white. And I'm like, good for you, man.
Learn more about this illusion and the original gorilla experiment at theinvisiblegorilla.com.
So when you are looking for how many players are passing the ball, you're going to miss the gorilla, right? If I come in here to do the most destruction with whatever weapons or tools that I have, I'm going to miss the gorilla, right? I've seen videos, and I don't put them on here on purpose because they're disturbing, and that's not my reason for doing this. But kid comes in with a gun, stands up, starts surveying the room, starts shooting. Literally, kids will come right here to him, and literally, I watched a video one time where a kid went, "What are you doing?" and then ran out of the room. And they interviewed that kid later, and he goes, "I don't know, I never saw anybody," right? Like literally came right up to him, but they're so focused and have that tunnel vision that you're missing the gorilla, right? You're missing things. And when you're trying to shoot a gun, I don't know how many of you guys have ever shot guns, but when you're shooting a gun, there's a lot of things that you're doing. You have to focus on the sight picture, the sight alignment, trigger control, breathing. How many bullets have I really shot because I don't want to go and be empty and have to reload? You know, all of these things are going through their head, and all of a sudden you throw something at them that they're not expecting, right? All you're looking for in a fight, there are two things that we want. We want time and we want distance, right? So we have to create the time, and then we either have to close the distance or we have to get far, far, far away distance, right? So a couple of scenarios. The way that I like to teach is I like to tell you guys and say, hey, this is how it works. And you guys go, okay, sure. And then I like to show you that it works, and you guys go, okay, he's not just a pretty face. He knows what he's talking about, right? So one of the things that I like to do, I call the preparation. So, ma'am, you're the only female in the room. I gotta have you come volunteer for me, right? And I need a big, strong guy. Who can be a big, strong guy for me?
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Tessie?
Yes.
John.
John.
Nice to meet you.
I know
Kelly?
a lot of Johns.
John's a great name. It's a phenomenal name, right? So here's what I want you to do for me, Kelly. I want you to just put your arm like that. Are you left or right-handed?
Right.
Okay, so your right hand, I want you to just put it at 90 degrees, okay? Not right now. But what I want you to do when I say go is I want you to raise your arm up and basically just kind of touch your opposite shoulder if you can.
Okay.
Just like that. Do that right now. There we go. What I want you to do is I want you to put your hands on him like this, and I want you to force his hand down. Down that way, okay? Just when I say go, okay? You can put your hands on him right now, but don't do anything until I say go. Now,
Your hands are warmer than his.
yeah,
My goodness. All right.
there we go. So Kelly, I want you to know something. I've never had a guy lose this, okay?
Great.
Just don't be the first one. Because if you do, it totally ruins what I'm doing here, okay? This is like the first time it's ever been televised or recorded, so please. Are you ready? You ready?
Yeah.
Go. All right. Good job. Hey, you got it.
I didn't
You
keep
got
my
it.
hands
Keep
on.
your hands on them. Go ahead and put your hands back on. Oh, careful there, Tessa. She's ready. That was good. Hey, you can do this.
Okay.
You got it? Ready? Go. All right. Good job. Let's give him a round of applause. Good job, guys. Thank you.
I said a guy couldn't.
I lied. So here's the thing. What did I do? I prepared them, yes? Separately. With Kelly, I told him, listen, dude, I never had a guy lose, right? I've had guys lose. Never had a guy lose, right? And all of a sudden, Tessie, if you watch her, she's like, oh, really?
Yeah.
So she's ready to go. She's ready to be the first one. Kelly is scared to death. Kelly's like, I'm going to be the first guy to ever lose. Oh, my gosh. So what does Tessie do the first time? She grabs, and then she starts lifting and putting her whole body, like she's on top, like I'm going to be the first one, right? So then we pause it, we reset it, and then what do? I tell Tessie, look, you can do this. Now Kelly knows he can do it, right? And so that second one, we get to this point, it's kind of like a part, right? Just by simply preparing them, just by the frame of mind that we can put these people in. They've done studies, especially with law enforcement. I love it. I met a guy last summer. He was the first responding officer to the Sikh temple shooting in Minnesota. And he got shot 12 times. 50 Cent has nothing on this guy. This guy got shot in the throat, in the face, in the back, in the arms, in the legs. Was supposed to die. He talks like this now all the time because it fractured and got in here. He still has bullets inside him, right? 100% should have died. But he says, I say, everybody knows the reason he lived was because everybody who he came into contact with from the second officer, that first person who got to him and said, dude, you're fine. You're going to be okay. Throws him into the police car, cuts his vest off, right, to find out where all these bleeders are coming from. Ambulance gets there. They throw him in the back of the ambulance. Every single person that talked to him said, you're fine. He goes, I got in there and I was going in and out of consciousness. And the doctor looked at me, slapped me in the face and said, what are you doing? You got grazed by 2 bullets. You're going to be fine. Totally lied, right? But all of a sudden he started believing, I'm going to live. I'm going to be fine. And he lived, right? They've done studies. They've shown where an officer literally has been shot in the toe. Non-life threatening, gonna be fine, probably walk with a limp for a little bit, but in the long run, he's not gonna stub his toe on the coffee table anymore, right? I think that might be a win. But because he said, I'm shot, I'm gonna die, there are officers out there who have died. from non-life-threatening injuries because they've succumbed to the fact that they're going to die. So by preparing our youth, by preparing our adults, by preparing our families here in the churches, and it's simply just, you're going to win, right? You can do so much. So then what I got a lot is, well, I have a bunch of second graders. I have a bunch of third graders. They can't do anything. Like, we're all in trouble. And I said, well, let's try this. And in this video that I'll show you here, I actually went into a third grade classroom, and it was just the teacher, and I said, this is what I want to do. And she agreed 110%. I basically told her, like, you go sit at your desk and you grade papers, you get on the internet, whatever you teachers do, do it. Don't help the kids. Don't talk to the kids. Don't be a resource. And she goes, okay, I can do that. So I come in, and I have two seniors who are in audio-visual, and they set up cameras to film it. I walk into the classroom, and I look at the kids, and I say, here's what's going to happen, kiddos. I'm going to walk through that. I'm going to go out. I'm going to take my gear off. I'm not going to tell you when I'm coming back in, but I'll tell you, you probably have like 3 or 4 minutes because I got to take my gear off, and I got to lock it up, and then I come back. So you have 3 or 4 minutes to really get prepared, to get ready. And what's going to happen is I'm going to walk through the door, and I'm going to walk from that door to the other side of the room. I'm going to touch the wall. Your job is, however you want to do it, I want you to stop me from getting to the wall. And when I touch the wall, you all owe me 10 jumping jacks. And in true third grade form, somebody goes, well, Officer John, what if we stop you and you don't hit the wall? And I'm like, no, I'm competitive. I'm going to touch the wall. But if not, I'll go put my gear back on and I'll give you 10 push-ups in full gear. Oh, man, the kids were jacked, right? I said, any questions? Nope, no questions. Cool. All right, I'm going to go take my gear off. And so this is what has happened, and we'll watch this. It's about a 14-second video, and we'll watch this a couple of times. I have been into this classroom probably 100 times prior to this, okay? So I know the classroom, I know what's going on, but this is what a group of third graders with zero help from adults came up with. All right, we'll watch this a couple of times, but again, watch. This usually takes, it really realistically took about 6 kids to take me down. And you see that I pull them up and I'm going to walk, and I'm like, oh yeah, because I want to see if this is going to work, because if it's not, let's go with something else. But you see me walk in, and immediately I have to observe and orient myself to this new surroundings, because where are the kids? Oh, they're right here. And the second that I went, they're right here, they're on top of me, right? And so then I start fighting. And you see this kid, I'll point him out to you. His name is Alex. And he's in a white shirt with like some green stripes. And he cheats. Okay? His dad is actually a correctional officer, and he has taught his son how to fight. And so you watch Alex come in. He's the last one. He comes in, and he does one of these. Into the no-no spot, right? So I immediately go down. And then I have to remember, I'm in a third grade classroom. I'm in a third grade classroom. Good words, good word. And that's why it takes me like 3-4 seconds to go, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Because it was not going to come out all right, all right, all right, all right. All right? But watch this. And again, I've been in this room so many times. I still have to observe and orient what's going on before I decide what to do. There's Alex. And there's the knee. And we miss it by this much on both cameras. But Alex comes up, he looks away, protects his head, and poof, right? Because as guys, there are things that we do. As human beings, it is ingrained into our souls that no matter what happens, we are going to protect our core, we're going to protect our head, and guys in the room, sorry, we raise a leg, right? If something's going on, we protect. And we raise the leg because we know what's important. But when you got kids jumping all over you, you can't raise the leg to protect, right? So all of a sudden, I'm down on the ground, okay? One of the things that I love doing is telling you guys where the head goes, the body goes, okay? And if there is ever a time where the head goes somewhere and the body doesn't follow, we may have problems, right? You may be holding a head, just so you know. But my 7-year-old daughter, from the moment she was born, she was just one of those kids where you just looked at her and she knew she was messing up and she shaped up, right? I have probably spanked my daughter maybe 5 times in her entire life. So when we go places, she gets to hold my hand and she gets that extra leash, right? If we're walking, then I need her, I'll pull her in, whatever maybe. She makes good decisions. My son, I have spanked him 5 times today and I haven't even seen him, right? He's in Topeka, I stayed the night here, and I virtually probably spanked him 5 times today. He is that kid who is just going to be stubborn, who just doesn't listen and is going to do his own thing, and he gets hurt all the time. And I just go, what are you going to do? When we go places, my hand is on top of his head. He doesn't get to hold my hand because he's going to go off and do stupid stuff. So my hand is on his head. And if we're walking, we'll walk. If I want him to go right, I turn his head to the right, and we go to the right. If we're going left, we'll go like this. My favorite one is if we're walking, I want him to stop, I pull back. And he stops, right? Because where the head goes, the body goes. So imagine with an adult in this situation. The kids get the guy down, the adult grabs the head and puts it on the ground. Again, this is 6, 7 third graders with 0 adult. So please don't tell me, oh my gosh, I have 2nd graders, I have 3rd graders, we're doomed. There was 0 adult help here. She didn't tell them where to stand or how to do anything. And you notice they didn't throw anything, right? They literally started moving their feet, which means their mouth starts running. And I'm stuck, right? We want to watch it again? All right, we'll watch it again. Sure, why not? How many of them are crying? How many of them are going, I'm scared? No, this is fun, right? Because the words that I used and the phrases that were said were not made to scare or be traumatic. It was made to empower, right? And it was fun. Can they do this in a stressful situation? Absolutely. If we practice this, if we tell them, if we empower them, especially the adult in the room who's going, hey guys, this is what I want you to do. I want you to look around the room. I want you to grab something, right? There's a guitar in the back corner that I want to smash on somebody's head. Like there literally is. I'm not joking. But oh my gosh, I can't believe what we're going to do here, right? And we were empowering. Hey, look, if they make it through this door for whatever reason, we're going to chuck things out. We're going to throw it at them, and then we're going to go and we're going to run and tackle them, and everything's going to be fine because we're going to win, right? There's no losing. There's nothing I can do here. Imagine if I had a gun and I came in. What do I have to do? I have to raise the gun up. Before I can get my hands up, I got 2 kids jumping on me, right? So we empower them, and we tell them, and we walk through it with them, and all of a sudden, there's no crying. There's no sadness. The last one we'll talk about is the OODA loop, and I told you we'd hit on this. Observe, orient, decide, and act. If I'm walking, I have to observe this. I have to orient myself to the table, to the wall, to the cords. I have to decide that I want to walk, and then I physically have to walk, right? And we do this with everything we do. You're sitting there, oh, I want to fold my arms. Well, all right, I've already observed that nobody else is around me. Cool. I've oriented myself. I'm not going to bump the wall. I'm not going to bump the chair. I decide I want to fold my arms, and then I act and I fold my arms. All right, cool. We do this without thinking about it. It's human nature, okay? And I love human nature because if we know what human nature is, then we get to use it against us, right? The way that I like to try to do that, I told you guys about the deer. The other way I try to do it is by playing catch, right? So can I have one of my football guys who wants to come play catch? Come on. Awesome. Adam? Adam, John, nice to meet you. Just stand right there. Literally, man, we're just going to play catch, right? Because what he's got to do, he's got to observe the football, orient himself to what's going on, decide he wants to catch the football, and then he catches the football, right? And we can do this for hours, and we probably would drop the ball once or twice, right? My favorite episode of Friends, you guys watch Friends? And they sit there and they toss the ball back and forth, and Joey's like, hey, we've been tossing this for like 2 hours and we haven't dropped it yet. And he's like, yeah, that's awesome, woo! Hey, my pants are feeling a little looser, right? I missed a meal, right? Because we could sit here and do this all day. And it doesn't matter if I throw it low, if I throw it high. Ooh, I almost dropped it. It doesn't matter. I could throw it left-handed. I could throw it right-handed. It doesn't matter. He's going to catch it because he's going through this OODA loop the whole time, right? Ah! Now look at his body, right? The leg is coming up. Absolutely. Thank you. You all right?
Yeah.
Good job. Thank you. Thank you. So I drop it now. Now I've officially scared all the other people. They have no idea what's going on. They just hear somebody screaming. So what happens? Everybody knew something was going to happen, right? I'm not bringing Adam up here just to play catch with him, right? Adam's going, oh my gosh, we're playing catch. This is stupid. What are you going to do to me, right? He knows. I could bring Adam up here again and look at him and go, I'm going to rush you. And the result will be the exact same. It is human nature. All of a sudden, he's focused on catching the football. Here comes a 6'4", 240-pound dude running at him screaming, I give up. Right? It's going to happen 10 times out of 10. And if he doesn't, then he gets flattened. Right? So imagine this. Imagine you have 15 kids or 15 adults and you've got the hard corner in the room and somebody for whatever reason decides to bust in and you all have got a tissue box, a cell phone, right? I don't care what it is. And all of a sudden you go to throw it at them. Human nature says, I'm going to protect this. So if they have a gun, if they have a knife, the thing is they can't raise it. They can't do anything because now all of a sudden you've gotten inside this OODA loop and it takes a second. It takes 2 seconds to get back to, okay, I know what I'm doing now. And in that second or 2 seconds, you've literally rushed him. And we all get that feeling sometimes where we're like, and by the time you realize what's going on, they're on the ground, okay? I've done this presentation 100 times. I did it to John Sapp, and John Sapp did the same thing. Right? It is the all-time, I've never had somebody go, right? It's never happened, right? So the OODA loop works, okay? This stuff works. We're not here talking about things that we're going to spend millions of dollars on. I do not want you to go out and spend millions of dollars. It's about just being smart. It's about thinking about things a different way. I like the locks on the inside of the classroom, okay? And the inside of the doors, if you have those are perfect. Why? Because I don't know about you guys, but if somebody's shooting or somebody's doing something out there, I don't want to have to stick my big butt out there and go through my ring of keys. How many of our volunteers that are in our rooms have keys to the room? None, right? So we get these locks that are on the inside of the classroom, right? Things that I walked around here and noticed are the doors that have the two handles right here, and you can open both doors. I am a big proponent of taking one of those handles off, right? I hate to research past shootings. I hate to research past killings. But we look at like Virginia Tech, where he's able to chain the doors shut so people can't get out. If we remove one of those handles, they're on the church out here, right? Is this anybody's home church? Okay, so take a look on the entrance out here. Those are the type where you can literally just run a chain or a rope through and tie it and lock it to where people can't get out. If you take one of those handles off, now you've got one door that you're coming in. People can't chain it shut, right? Costs you what? 5 cents to take if you're going to pay your guy to take the screws out of the thing, right? If we can get the locks on the inside of the doors, those are about a $25, $35 locking mechanism right there. I'm not asking you to go out and do a whole bunch of expensive stuff. We just have to literally rethink the way that we do things. Okay? We need to rethink church safety. We have to rethink how all of this works. All right? With our kids, with our adults, again, adults get to make adult decisions. Adults are the most important people in the room because I tell the kids they do 3 things in any stressful crisis situation, whether it's a fire, if it's a tornado, if it's an active assailant, and heaven forbid we have a hurricane in Kansas, but oh my gosh, if we have a hurricane in Kansas, we have bigger problems. But kids do 3 things. They're supposed to be quiet, they're supposed to listen, and they're supposed to do what they're told. But to do that and to be able to trust that, we have to empower the adults to be able to make the decision, right? The kid should not be quiet, listen, and look at the adult, and the adult go, I don't know. Like, that's bad news for everybody. And that could be a fire, right? If there's a fire in the building and the adult in the room goes, I have no idea what to do, we're going to be in trouble. It's not just about the active assailant events. But what we have to do is we have to empower the adults to make these calls, okay? We have to make sure that we're a church that can have safety, but it's almost on like that back burner to where nobody really knows until it's time. And then they go, oh man. We had an elderly lady, love her to death, who came to church, and all of a sudden she starts having problems, right? And she's lethargic, she's falling asleep, she's awake, she's just kind of, we ended up having to call 911. We were able to signal the pastor understands what's going on, he ends service, and all of a sudden, every safety member jumps up, goes into action. We have a paramedic, we have a firefighter, we got a police officer, and we're all right there. We've cleared the room, we've cleared everybody out. And the number one comment we got, people wrote on their comment sheets on the cards, now this is the time they use those cards, right? I couldn't believe how many people were there to help. I couldn't believe how many people were trained and had already talked through this situation. Right. These are things that in law enforcement as a paramedic, I'm sure we all think about, you know. I joke, any firefighters in here? Cool. I joke with firefighters, cops are the first responders. Firefighters are like second responders because the cops got to go in, right? Make sure everything's safe. But when you can all talk about situations, we had talked about a situation like that. What happens if somebody goes down in church? What do? We got to signal the pastor, get everybody out. We can clear the room. That's when we start working on them, right? We get the family, let the family know, but we don't let them get into this area right away because we're going to be doing stuff. So it was stuff that our mind had already gone to, we had already discussed it, and then all of a sudden it happens, and we put it into practice in real life. Safety is not going away. Safety should be a line item in your church, right? Even if it's $100 a year or $1,000 a year, it needs to be its own separate line item because it's not going away. And when we can really start looking at it and focusing on it, that's when we're able to talk about it and make a difference. Because just because we don't talk about it doesn't mean it's going away or it won't happen. Are there any questions? I know I've talked for about, I don't know what time this is over now, 9:45, 10:45? So, oh, see, but we started so early, I ended early. Right. Oh, there's donuts. This is how you can connect with me. I don't really know what I'm doing on Twitter. If you have Twitter, I got a lot of followers, and I don't know why, because it's clearly me and being a cop. But I got a lot of followers. That's my Facebook and my email. I say if you email me, give me about 2 or 3 days, I will respond to you, no matter what. But there are times that I'm out on the road, or there are times that I just decided it's family time, and I'm going to throw my phone in the lake. That's happened once, and that really sucked. But email me. I have business cards up here. This is not about going out and making $1 billion, right? This is about just common sense, smart stuff that we can do that I, as a law enforcement guy and a school safety guy, have already thought about and been to and walked through. So if there's anything that I can do to help you guys as a church, or you guys have a situation, like I said, I had a church a couple weeks ago email me, and I said, hey, send me a picture. So they were able to send me a picture, and I said, oh, why don't you do this or this or this? And it worked out great. I think they ended up spending $15. And when they said, how much can we pay you? I said, you don't need, like, it took me 45 seconds. Why do you need to pay me, right? It's about being safe. It's about keeping our kids safe, keeping our church safe, bringing the word of Christ and the word of God so that everybody can hear it, right? And again, I try not to get too political, but if there's one thing I think we can agree on in this life right now, we are broken. And I really feel like, and I love being able to come out and talk to churches because I can say this without people like frowning at me. But when the churches lead the change, that's when change is going to happen, right? And too far, and for so long, churches have been made to be quiet. Go do this over here, you can do this. We have freedom, right? We can practice religion here anytime we want, and that's awesome. But when the churches start trying to stand up and say, hey, what about, we need to change this. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Be quiet, churches. Go sit over there. Okay. Right? We get too politicized. Well, we have to believe this. We have to believe this. No. the Bible is the only thing I got to believe in because I got far better things waiting for me, right? So please feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to each other. Again, form those safety teams. And it's a simple email. Who's safety minded? Who wants to help us with safety stuff? I guarantee you got people in your church right now who are just chomping at the bit for safety things. You know, your law enforcement people are great people to tap. So, any questions? I just did a phenomenal job.
Did a good job. I like the fact that when you were playing catch with Adam, that he was focusing on that one ball.
Yeah.
One at a time. But what changed was when you tossed both of them, I saw him start to duck, and then when you started to move, it made him do something completely different. And that's the same thing what needs to, in a situation.
Mm-hmm.
The churches, what do you got in the sanctuary? You've got a bunch of hymnals.
Mm-hmm.
Start throwing them.
You got your cell phone, if nothing else, right?
You got books. You got Bibles.
Mm-hmm. There you go. I mean, and it doesn't have to be 10 pounds. It doesn't have to be. It could be a foam football, right?
His first reaction is going to be, I'm going to protect myself. It's going to take him another second or two to get his bearings straight to continue. And if he's got multiple stuff coming at him,
You're done.
you've got people that are aware what's going on. They can come in from the side, and just like those kids, they can have him down, nothing flat. But the thing is, you've got to be able to do that. You got to be prepared for it. You got to,
We got to talk about it.
yeah, got to talk about it. Gotta,
For your safety team, do you have any recommendations as far as online resources for scenarios or for setting up your plan or things?
Absolutely. So FEMA does a phenomenal job. They've got their incident command stuff. They've got, and what I do is I look at different kind of situations and I steal things, right? I don't reinvent the wheel, except for this. SPAR has totally 100% reinvented the wheel and I did it all by myself. But FEMA has on their website free school safety course. You take that, you translate it into your church stuff. It's absolutely free. It's perfect. Right now, you have Homeland Security who's able to come out and do 3 free threat assessments on your buildings. You can use Chuck. He's, I mean, you got to get on his waiting list, but yeah, your insurance will have something as well. Yeah. You know, I joke a lot of times, I have to review a lot of the safety plans and the crisis plans for schools, and I had an 8-page crisis plan, and I had a 178-page crisis plan. Neither one of them were actionable and going to cover anything, but this 178-page had 3 pages totally 100% dedicated to what to do in a hurricane. And when I asked the school who created this plan for you in the state of Kansas, they said, oh no, it was our insurance company based out of Florida. Oh, well, no wonder they have a hurricane policy, right? But reaching out, especially if you have law enforcement, your local law enforcement will come out and teach safety courses. Your sheriff's department will come out and teach some safety stuff to you and what to look for. And if you don't, I don't know where you're located, I'll Zoom with you. And, you know, again, this isn't about charging an arm and a leg, but I will Zoom. If you're close to Topeka, I'll drive out to you. You know, I came out here, I got to stay the night. I got to sleep in a bed. My wife snores, so it was awesome. I didn't have to deal with a snoring wife or 2 screaming kids at 6 o'clock in the morning, right? I had to deal with the screaming wife at 7:30 when she's like, I had to take care of your kids, right? Yeah, they're your kids too. Love you. No, they're not. Not until 9 a.m. I'm sorry, right? But I will help you out any way that I can. Your resources and your law enforcement will be huge. FEMA's got great courses to get everybody on the same page.
I was curious about the scenario you did with the kids.
Yeah.
In the classroom. You know, when the assailant comes in with a firearm,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's going to be a different situation.
Mm-hmm.
So do you even go there as far as practicing with a gun?
Nope. Because here's the thing.
Do you even want kids rushing someone with a firearm?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because what's the other option?
Fishing a bird?
You're gonna allow the gunman to come towards the kid. And the thing is, and what we need to realize is in our schools, our kids are already learning this kind of stuff. It's little variations here or there, but they've already learned their ask your kids, what do you do in a lockdown? You know, and the terminology will be a little different, but they're already practicing this stuff, right? And it's unfortunate. I did one lockdown drill, and it was in 1996. I was in 6th grade. That shows you how old I am. But I was in 6th grade in 1996. I went to Ross and Robinson Middle School, and the term for the lockdown was, Mr. Robinson, come to the courtyard. We didn't have a Mr. Robinson. We didn't have a courtyard, right? And it was shut the lights off and duck underneath a table. So I'm underneath my desk, and I remember specifically because the door had a window right here, and I remember sitting under my desk and looking at the window going, I can see the hallway. And if I can see the hallway, they can see me. But nobody had a good answer because it was 1996. And then in 1999, we had Columbine, and that totally changed the way law enforcement did things, totally changed the way we tried to do stuff in school. It's sad now to look back at Columbine and say the most deaths occurred at the library, and the library, 20 feet to the rear of the library, was an exit outside. But kids were told to duck underneath the chairs and duck underneath the tables because we didn't have anything. Now, kids are already learning this kind of stuff, and kids know, especially our older kids. I got high school football players who I think beg for an active assailant to come into the school, right? Because they're kind of like me. If I had to go to school, I was going to hit somebody, right? So I was going to play football because I was going to hit somebody. These high school kids are chomping at the bit because they want to hit somebody. So, but with the little kids, you don't have to come in with a gun. You saw, and we got time, I can go back and show you the video. I try to bring my hands up, and I get my hands to about here, and they're back down at my side because they've grabbed them, and I'm trying to do different things. And at that point, it was about moving and surviving, not about trying to get shots off. And I'm not here to tell you, you know, one of the things that we try and talk through in our tabletop exercises is there might not be a save 100%, right? And that's hard to talk about, especially when you talk about kids. Like, there might not be a save 100%, but we're going to save as many as we can, and we're going to save a heck of a lot more if we take down this guy than if we let him come to us. We're going to get inside his OODA loop, we're going to get the 1 or 2 seconds, and we're going to take advantage of that.
I think that's why your hard corner is so important.
Right.
Because he still has to get the door open, and if you're getting to him before he's even...
And I work a lot with the state fire marshal now. It's awesome because I was in the schools and I would yell at our local fire marshal, and it basically turned out to like, I'm doing my job and you doing your job, and it just sucks because we're butting heads. So now I have lunch with the state fire marshal at least once a month, and we talk about variances and changes that he can make for our schools and for fire codes to help us. So he's done a phenomenal amount of job in letting us use things that will help us lock and secure our doors. Right? If you didn't know, having the door proper opener stuff is illegal. It's against fire code, right? Because his thing is that if people need to exit this room, they can trip on it. And I go, what if we just put something right here on the door where it sits? And if we want to prop the door open with it, we can use it there. If not, the door closes, we can use it, we can kick it right here. It's a 5-cent tool that people are paying $60 to have a bar go from here to the floor and hold the door shut. And it's ridiculous because, again, never in an active assailant event has a locked door been breached, but that's part of the way we're going to harden the classroom is by reinforcing this. Or we'll stack desks and chairs and tables and everything in front of this door, which is absolutely fine. But again, the safest thing we can do is close the door and lock it, you know? That's the safest thing we can do. It's the safest place to be.
I work in maintenance in the school, and our elementary schools, both of our elementary schools, kindergarten through second, through fifth, where there's a metal door frame, that door is locked.
Yep.
But there's a magnetic strip just right there at the door.
Yep.
Makes that door code full open.
And that was a variance he issued about 6 months ago. That was the first thing he let me do. Because I said, I want our teachers in schools to teach with the door locked. Why can't we teach with the door locked? Well, we can't because it hinders the exit. If there's a fire, they then have to go and unlock it. I go, but it's a push button. It's right here. Nope, can't do it. Well, what if we put a magnet right here so it's locked, but it doesn't latch? And then if we need to pull the magnet, we pull the magnet, it latches and it's locked. Well, we could probably do something like that. Thank you, right? So if you have any issues with fire marshals or anything like that, again, feel free to email me. I might have to tell you kick rocks. There's nothing I can do. I'm not going to fight that battle. But I can take those concerns to the state fire marshal. And we can massage things and compromise and get stuff worked out. So
There's some of our doors that, some of the doors on the classroom that they'll open up 90 degrees, and over here on the wall is a magnet.
Mhm.
There's a door against that magnet, and it opens the door. You turn that, you pop it away from that magnet, that door closes. I put on numerous of those.
mhm.
Do we need somebody in the parking lot the whole time church is going?
I think you do. And it can just be, you can go from having 2 guys or 3 guys to just having 1. And he doesn't have to walk the parking lot, but he can just stand outside, go in, get a cup of coffee, come back, whatever. But again, if I'm gonna do bad things, and I know your church starts at 9:30, I'm not coming in at 9:28. I'm not coming in at 9:30. I'm gonna come in at like 9:45. And so if you got somebody who's walking around the parking lot looking in cars, or you see somebody who's parked and now comes in, and again, the media likes to show the AR-15s, right? God, I love my AR-15. I actually thought about when I was an SRO one time, because I had an AR-15, but you never carry it. And as a firearms guy, I was always taught you use your pistol to fight back to the AR, to the long gun that you should have brought in the first place. So I wanted to just see what everybody would do and sling my AR and walk into the school with my AR. I never did, because that would probably, there would have been kids crying left and right. But most of the time, the active assailants that are done by, the active shooters are done by handgun. So you see a guy who gets out of his car and comes in and has a handgun. Now all of a sudden you got a guy who's out in the parking lot who sees that and can go, nope, get inside, lock the doors, do whatever he needs to do, start alerting people, hey, there's somebody in the parking lot with a gun. Like, and it's not open carry like we do in Kansas, but it's full blown, like he's got it out, or this is a guy I've never seen before and he's got a gun on his hip. We need to lock the exterior doors. We need to get the cops here like now. And it gives you 30, 45 seconds. It gives you a minute and a half, right? Just to have that one set of eyes. Not only are we there because they're going to walk around the parking lot and try to steal stuff out of people's cars. You know, how many times, especially as churches, do we have somebody come in and go, hey, I need a couple bucks for gas, or I need a couple bucks for food. You know, they know that churches are going to give them the handout. The churches are going to be the ones that you go to. So all of a sudden somebody comes walking in and it's in between services, or the service started 15 minutes ago. You now have a set of eyes out there that can identify and approach, or decide, hey, we need to lock this stuff and we need to call 911. And you can alert the pastor who's up there preaching, who can do something, right? And it's about time. Again, 2 things we want to fight is time and distance. Now we've able to lock our exterior doors. We have that extra time. Average police response is going to be 7 to 10 minutes, depending on where you're at. You know, in some of the schools, I tell them it's going to be 20 minutes. And you got to hold your own. So depending on where your church is, depending on what's going on, what's even better is if you got a church with law enforcement guys and you go in and go, hey, there's somebody in the parking lot, we need to, the cops are going to go, sweet, yes, right? But if you don't have somebody watching the parking lot, if you don't have somebody out in the parking lot, now that person has gained entry into the church, and then your inside guys go, hey, he's got a gun. And now we're reactive instead of being proactive. Right. Instead of being proactive, we're kind of reactive. So that's why I push for somebody to at least have eyes on the parking lot at all times.
So we have the issue not just on Sundays,
Mm-hmm.
but during the week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the secretary. We've had to start locking our doors
Yep.
during the week because, you know, hey, I need money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm desperate. I had a guy one time come in with a full cape and a face mask, scared
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
living daylights out of me. But a couple weeks later, he was in our service and threatened suicide.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't help him with money, so
Yeah.
it's not just on Sundays. That
So
churches,
what I say, because we've had that happen as well. So what I say is it's really awesome to just lock all the doors
right?
and then have have a doorbell.
Yeah, we have
So-
a doorbell
yeah.
and security cameras watching the front door and my office.
Yep. So hey, what do you need? What can I help you with? If we can get them to not be able to gain entry into the church, perfect. Now all of a sudden they ring the doorbell and we say, hey, you're good, see you later, and it's crashes and windows breaking and stuff, and you can see it on your camera if you got it out there. But now we step our stuff up and we lock our door in that.
And I have it live
Or
while I'm at my desk all the time that I can
something that I love to tell you, and because our secretaries are like, I'm high and dry.
Right.
Something that I love to get them, a can of wasp spray or a fire extinguisher. Get one of those little mini $15 fire extinguishers. You put it underneath the desk. Somebody, for whatever reason, I don't think I've ever been in the church office, you know, but somebody, for whatever reason, goes in the church office and sees the fire extinguisher. We're fire safe, right? Oh, okay. Sees the wasp spray. Oh, yeah, you know what? It is summertime and we're going to have wasps. But what is it you're really great for? Have you ever been sprayed in the face with wasp spray? It's I haven't, but I can only imagine. I've been sprayed with OC, the pepper spray, and I can only imagine. Fire extinguisher, same thing. What's a fire extinguisher do? It takes the oxygen out of things. So it muddies up the vision because you can't see anything. It takes the oxygen out of you, and then you got a really sweet beaten stick when it's done. And so this person is trying to cough and gain their, you know, get their oxygen back and get their bearings, and all of a sudden, conk on the head. Night time for a little bit. Gives the time for the police to get here. So absolutely. It sounds like you guys have done a lot of good things with the cameras and the locking of the doors. Have your pastor, have somebody, you say, hey, you know what I really like for Christmas? Instead of getting me that $10 gift card to Subway, give me a fire extinguisher. I want to be fire safe. Right? Again, we're not breaking the bank. We're not telling her that she needs to carry a gun. Now that's an option too. If you want to carry a gun, whatever you want to do. But now we got a fire extinguisher and we're fire safe. Any other questions? I want to try to get you out here just a little early so you can get first round of the donuts. There you go. Excellent. Well, again, guys, I have business cards up here. If you want to take a picture of this slide just so you have my information, please feel free to do that. I appreciate you coming in here. I'm hoping that, I know it's a tough subject, but you had a little bit of fun. You laughed at least once, and you learned something, that it's not about having to go out and spend billions of dollars, but that just by making simple little changes, we can affect what we do. So thank you guys so much. God bless. You guys have a great rest of your day.